Hello, welcome to this year's presentation of some of our best applications from 2021. Before we get into that though, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Brain, and I work with the team that is charged with partnering with our customers to help them make their applications successful. I've been with Logi for a little more than 9 years, and in that time, I've seen literally hundreds of our partners' applications, and may have even helped implement a few myself. And those applications and the people I've worked with are what have kept me coming back and keep me coming back every day. But this little spiel isn't really about me. In fact, it's about us and our partners and what we all do together to strive towards success. So let's get on to the interesting stuff. As I was looking for that all-important segue from this brief intro into the meat of the presentation, I really wanted to focus on something especially relevant to 2021. Now, once again, I decided that I wanted to keep it light and passed on some very interesting technical and industry specific topics in favor of something more pertinent to the stories many of us have recently been playing a part in. If you recall last year's presentation, I found this clever, albeit applicable, representation of something near and dear to many of us at the time. Well, this chart still demonstrates the very real representation of how the visualization of data is important in our everyday lives. It is a bit dated. So as I was perusing the internet, searching for something more relevant to this past year, my Instagram feed, as it often does, knew exactly what I was looking for and decided to direct my stream of consciousness. Now I can speak from practical experience on the latest trend that hit late in 2021, as it affected my family, and I'm sure many of yours over the holidays. So it didn't surprise me when Instagram popped the following meme up for me to digest. And while I'm sure most of you can attest to 2020 having been a pretty crappy year, I know for certainty that 2021 left us all feeling a bit more testy. Now, this may come across as a bit of light humor. It is once again actually quite relevant to our topic here this afternoon, because analytics are everywhere and provide insights into virtually everything. This graphic was actually part of a much larger article on the great test hunt that my family and many of yours undertook around the holidays. And while this chart happens to represent the impact on a global level, I imagine charts representing our local impact would be very similar, all based on the data collected and displayed to present part of the story within a larger story of the mad dash to find last-minute tests as we move from 2021 into 2022. And so that's how we'll proceed, with stories that show how embedded analytics tell stories that are pertinent to our lives. We all work to move our partners towards success using the capabilities we provide for embedded analytics applications. And those applications ultimately tell stories. So I think the best way to portray the journey towards the application perfection that we strive for is as a retelling of the history of the creation of those applications. And what I'm really going to present today are the stories of the best applications of 2021, and especially some companies' applications and stories that are especially impactful in the current times. So today we'll focus on these 4 of our customers and on the journeys we have partnered with them on towards application perfection, which is still our North Star. First, we have Envista, who is enabling commerce and supply chain leaders to improve efficiencies, profitability, and customer service through their MyShipInfo BI platform. Who hasn't been affected by supply chain challenges over the last year? Next, we have AVI SPL, who provide digital enablement solutions that designs, integrates, manages, and supports on-site and cloud-based communications and collaboration technologies for organizations around the globe, helping our new age remote workforce stay in touch. And Assure Software, who provides cloud-based human capital management solutions in the US to help small and mid-sized businesses to develop and manage human capital to get to the next level, stay compliant, and allocate resources towards growth. Especially important as we all deal with the new challenges in job markets. And finally, Medidata, who helps generate the evidence and insights to help pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device and diagnostics companies, along with academic researchers, accelerate value, minimize risk, and optimize outcomes in clinical trials, helping to author possibly one of the most relevant stories in the history of mankind. Now, on to the cool stuff. And let's start with the story of Envista and their MyShipInfo application. And I chose to start with this one because it really showcases the impact we can have on helping companies navigate through the difficulties underlying the pandemic. First, let's start with a bit of background. Who is Envista? They're a leading global software consulting and managed services provider. They optimize and transform physical and digital commerce for the world's leading brands. Envista brings together the most innovative platforms, people, and technologies to solve complex supply chain and commerce challenges. And they bring over 20 years of unmatched domain expertise and innovative solutions to accelerate target business outcomes. Customer success and innovation is in their DNA. Founded in 2002 and based in Beverly, Massachusetts, Envista is a provider of software solutions and consulting services to over 2,600 clients worldwide, and with targeted revenue of around 140 million for last year. Through their solutions and services, they help their clients. Focuses on improving efficiency, profitability, and customer service. And they do this for some of the most complex end-to-end supply chain and omni-channel challenges out there. So they are known for being experts at enabling commerce and supply chain leaders. The clients come to them because they don't have the level of visibility into their own data or an easy way to get to their own data that they need. Many of their clients all have their own internal business intelligence initiatives. Think of Power BI or Tableau, or any of the other competitors that are in the space. The biggest challenge is actually being able to use these platforms and glean the intelligence that they need specifically on the transportation side. That's where Envista comes to play. So the Envista journey with Logi. They came aboard as part of the Zoom Data acquisition. They've been using Zoom Data and now Composer for over 4 years. Remember, they really understand their client's business and want to provide a sophisticated platform for delivering analytics value, which is what Composer's really allowed them to do. Their typical user is much less of a technical user. They want to consume analytics and build their own, but don't have that programmer mentality. The majority of their enterprise clients all use the MyShipInfo BI module. So let's take a look at what Envista is providing with this module in Composer. So this is the homepage where all of Envista's customers and associates start as they live, work, and play. There are various modules here, but the one we care about for our purposes is through the BI button. This is where all of their enterprise customers, as I mentioned, around 95% plus, access their BI. And they leverage that for the complex analytics that they and the super users actually use. So when they click on that BI button, what happens is a customer comes into what they refer to as the training center. So Envista built out this whole training center based around the Composer product, and this helps your customers maximize the use of the product. The training in this training center is specifically designed around the content that they have built with Composer and the features provided with Composer. They took this approach because of one of the biggest hurdles they encountered initially was user adoption. When this relationship started, they would kind of bring users on and train them on the platform and train them on the data that's available on the platform. But for users to effectively go to that next level of actually building out their own content or even knowing how to leverage the Envista team, there was a big gap. And Envista wasn't seeing the user engagement that they needed for the product to be as powerful and successful as they wanted. So they did a couple of things to address this. So when we click on the BI login button, they can log directly into the MyShipInfo BI module. Now, a quick mention here, a lot of customers will obviously bookmark this page to get direct access. But I wanted to kind of show off some of the sophistication around what Envista's put together to support Composer and enhance their end users' ability to get the most out of using and understanding the product. We haven't seen anything of Composer yet, but from a user experience, it's somewhat transparent. When our customers take the time to consider, spec, and design an experience that can enhance what Composer does or any of our other products, they're really maximizing their investment with Logi. The end user treats this entire experience as one big experience, whether it's in Composer or Envista's parent application. They don't know the difference. So they're really providing a nice entrance into the Composer product. So once we get into the Composer product after logging in, the first thing we'll see is this day one dashboards page. So that's one of the first things that Envista ended up building out. When clients come on board with Envista, they come on board with the BI product. As they jump into their BI environment, they're going to get a list of about 40-ish initial dashboards. This gives them different visualizations that are helpful for different areas of their transportation business. Some start at very high level, and then they get much more specific and dialed in, identifying problems or challenges that they may be facing, and gives them the visibility they currently don't have. The dashboards provided here are based largely on Envista's experience in the effectiveness of the visualizations and data for other clients. These are based on dashboards that not only other clients have built, but Envista's built. Envista's consulting services have built. So they'll take a lot of those visualizations or workflows and then productize them and include them in this, what they call day one dashboards. So let's click on one of these dashboard links here. It opens in the browser, and here's an example of one of the day one dashboards that provides an overview of some transportation metrics. Now I mentioned that Envista did two things. And the second piece of this is where they leverage the training center that you saw. One, from a data dictionary perspective, because their transportation data is so wide and vast that it takes a while to get people up to speed. And two, from a content perspective, as to what's in the tool and how they can manipulate the tool when Envista is not around. So Envista want them to come to them for help, but they also need them to adopt the tool first. And to adopt it, they have to understand it. And that training center addressed not only understanding, leveraging Composer to build analytics, but all the things around data definitions and the expertise and understanding how to use it to build meaningful analytics, visualizations, and dashboards. So what does Envista think about Composer? The flexibility of the tool from a content authoring perspective is something that is a key differentiator. They see this in both their sales cycles and with user adoption. It really sets us apart. Their clients love the ease of use content authoring versus the competitors that are out there in the market, and in their own corporations already. Like I said, many have Tableau and Power BI and Sisense at the corporate level, but these people, these end users, don't want to utilize those tools because it doesn't work for them. Envista also sees the value from an embedded analytics perspective due to the limited technical ability for some of their users. So moving to the future, Envista is extremely focused on getting clients more involved in a self-service version of this platform. They want to increase the value of their Envista relationship, as well as reduce reliance on the Envista account analyst teams. The Envista development teams love the modernized and architecture and ease of use Composer provides, and how capable it is in handling large data sets, as well as the finer controls and in-depth reporting options. And they really love the savings and cost. Simplification of the various levels of configuration required for adding and maintaining users is huge. That's somewhere they want to spend time trying to evolve their solution. And then being able to bulk apply settings across dashboards and visuals to make updates more powerful and easy to configure for these larger customer bases. And we continue to have dialogue and work with them in our relationship going forward. So let me leave you with this quote from one of the key members of the Envista team, Brett Hemrick. Our client's biggest challenge is being able to use a BI platform to glean the intelligence that they need. What Logi Composer is able to do is unlock this potential with the data that they have much quicker and in a much easier fashion. Again, glowing reviews from a great partner. So now let's move on to the story of AVI SPL Symphony platform, which is different from ours. So AVI SPL improves team collaboration and helps people work smarter and live better. They are a digital enablement solutions provider. They've been innovating the way work gets done and unlocking new business value since 1979. And they deliver solutions that modernize experiences, accelerate results, and create flexibility in support of hybrid work. They have really seen a boom in business over the last several years. So as I mentioned, they're a digital enablement service provider with over 3,000 employees worldwide in 50 offices, 24/7 by 365. These guys are very invested. Their Symphony software product has a couple of key differentiators. Monitor and analyze multi-vendor meeting experiences and environments is key, as well as providing a unified view of environment native integrations with leading AV, video, and UC vendors, workflow automation, actionable intelligence, all within a secure environment. So let's talk a little bit about the journey with AVI SPL and Logi. So AVI SPL were using Power BI and looking to replace it with Sisense. They had moved away from Power BI due to poor performance, surprise, surprise, wanting to move away from Sisense because their head of research and development thought they were sleazy. These guys sound like a great reference customer, BZ. So Logi got involved and delivered a top-notch evaluation and began our partnership in earnest going into 2021. So we're introduced to them in August of 2020. Evaluation begins sometime in November. By January, after a great evaluation, we're implementing and integrating. And in March, in 3 months, we released to production. There's a subplot here, and that is that great partnership is a two-way street. And when both parties partake, it usually leads to great results. So don't miss that story here. So what worked? Well, Logi partnered intimately with AVI SPL, and we provided dedicated pre-release support. Got them up to speed quickly and effectively. Had prompt, flexible, focused insight on the development team, on their successes, and we got lauded for the way we supported them post-release. So initially it took hours to deploy and configure, but Logi's support created a dedicated updater tool for AVI SPL, and that's now being used by other customers. And that shaved hours, literally hours off of their ability to deploy and configure. And then regular weekly cadence between technical account management and AVI SPL dev team, where Logi really drove, was really key in directing AVI SPL's processes around how to deal with workarounds, troubleshooting, escalations, roadmap inclusions, all the things we take for granted and we do every day in the technical field. It's nice to see it work and a customer calls out for it. Really want to give props to Steve Murfin on this one. He led a larger team, people like Ellis Carroll, Felipe Blanco, Delant Patel were all involved. But his direction was outstanding in the entire team. I will tell you, I could call out all of these people on most of these and many other deals that we're talking about today. Challenges to overcome. We did have some. Symphony can be deployed on-prem, individual cloud, single instance, or multi-tenant shared instance. It's not unusual for us to have to support multiple deployment configurations. For our customers, they're usually dealing with their product, so To them, it's more of a challenge, but for us, we have a lot of best practices and experience to call upon. So we've helped guide them there. Actionable intelligence is a major value prop of Symphony. So we're working with their team to understand how that's best spec'd and implemented. And then it's always key when we're transitioning in a product. It's not a new product from the ground up, but that easy transition from the current solution to this new solution and displaying data that's relevant, especially here in the AV video conferencing and unified communications world, along with their meeting room and metrics and tickets and issues and those sorts of things. So let's look at a few of the dashboards that they're providing. So remember, this product name is Symphony, and it's a collaboration platform that helps organizations understand things like peripheral audio, intelligent screens, and networking and performance. One of the main benefits that Composer brought to the Symphony platform was putting all this in an end-to-end workflow for their customers. So you can understand technical resources for meetings and collaboration, and also understand the end users in their meetings, all in a single pane view. So the user doesn't have to jump around between different screens. This dashboard here provides general analytics metrics, such as how many total rooms, number in service, number managed, number that are classified as VIP rooms, on a single dashboard, along with information on equipment and devices associated. Here's another Symphony dashboard that provides meeting quality analytics. Metrics are provided per property, location, and device, as well as KPIs for call and video durations and quality. Here's a dashboard providing analytics on tickets and resolution performance. And then another one that provides analytics with KPIs and metrics on issues and ticket events. So somewhat related. It's always interesting when trying to put together a story about a specific company's application and implementation, and pick specific screen captures out. It might be something we consider going forward, where we actually get some demos on a few of these so you can see the workflow. Not always possible, but this gives you at least some insight into the kinds of things they're putting together and what they look like. So moving into the future, AVI-SPL is going to continue to look for opportunities to improve development processes. For example, minimizing backwards compatibility risks. And I say AVI-SPL, this is really us. We embed with these teams. We help guide them along the way. We don't leave them to their own, although many will be able to handle this on their own. We're going to continue to be a good partner. So they're somewhat limited in standard source control tools compatibility. Not something that's specific to Logi, but there can be improvements that can help the integration process. And we'll look to partner with them and seeing if we can come up with some. And then a continued open dialogue between AVI and SPL, AVI, SPL, and Logi teams as we move forward for our mutual success. So what is AVI, SPL saying about Composer? Well, they start with partnership. So in many cases, separating product and company isn't something that people necessarily look to do. They refer to our product as Logi in many cases. It could be Info or Report or Composer or a number of others. But what we get is the view from the customer that we are a single partner and we provide a solution. And partnership is something that we take important. The difference in performance, again, it's nice when we're going up against someone like Power BI because we know we can beat them, and we do it often. And then the ease of use and scalability of the tech, as well as licensing, those are all huge. Now I'll mention they especially love Composer's live data connection and real-time dashboard capabilities, but going back to ultimately the things that they decided on for Logi and they continue to call out, it's the things we see in many deals and then many successful long-term relationships, and that's partnership, performance, ease of use, and then scalable tech, which includes licensing. So kudos to everyone involved in helping to make AVI-SPL successful. Now let's move on to Assure's time labor management tool, which is our sole report story today. So who is Assure Software? So Assure's mission is to provide human capital management software and services that help companies grow while nurturing a culture of growth around them. They're focused holistically on helping customers grow by getting the most from human capital, helping their employees grow personally and professionally, growing relationships and communities that inspire goodness, and doing all these things in a way that grows shareholder value. So they really do have a holistic approach. It's not just on the bottom line on their customers, but all these things eventually do affect the bottom line. They provide both a SaaS offering and consulting services to deliver efficient and effective help to their clients. Their vision is to be the most trusted human capital management resource to entrepreneurs everywhere. And it's refreshing to see companies that focus on trust, because I know that's been one of the things that's allowed us to be successful, is building that trust relationship. So Assure Software's journey started in 1985 as Forgent Networks, where they specialized in video conferencing solutions, which is interesting. We just heard about AV-ISPL. Today, they are a 450 plus person HR and human capital management company based out of Austin, Texas, with estimated revenue for 2021 of over 70 million. Complete pivot in their business. So as I mentioned, their journey started really in 85, but who they are today is so different. The original focus was more similar to AV-ISPL with video conferencing, meeting management. Over time, they've transformed their business completely through inorganic acquisition, as well as organically through a shift of focus. They now compete with companies like Workday, ADP, Paycom, and Paychex. They serve all areas of HR. They have solutions such as Assure Payroll and Tax, Assure HR, Assure TLM, which is what we're in, which is a time labor management solution. They also provide HR services that offer basically services ranging from online compliance library and on-demand call centers for various HR questions to outsourced HR functions. So let's take a look at the journey that Logi and Assure have undertaken to this point. Like I said, they came back to us in October of 2020, largely due to the inability for them to allow their customers to create reports themselves. And when I say came back, there's a couple of interesting subplots here, which I'll get into in a second. So they came back to us because they wanted to be able to allow their customers to create reports for themselves. Number one complaint from their customer team. They actually had been a Logi Ad Hoc customer, still are, years ago, before leaving to look for other solutions. That's not the real story here, but it's an interesting side note. Part of the deal that we've closed, we ended up helping them upgrade their Logi Ad Hoc because it was so old. They were on an old perpetual license, I believe, and their hardware changed. I believe they went to a later Windows operating system that no longer supported the version of Ad Hoc they're on. Again, interesting side note. But what a journey. So that was in 2008 when they started as a customer with Ad Hoc. They went out and ended up choosing iZenda over Jimfonet years before either acquisition. Well, not a little bit before either acquisition. Ended up coming back into the fold with iZenda, and then we're having trouble getting a solution implemented with iZenda in the market in a timely manner from a support perspective. So they were looking for a partner that would be there for them when they needed it. Brian Zurich went back in and actually ended up selling them a Composer report package. And here we are. So their development team is finally able to deliver on their needs using Logi Report. One of those needs is a centralized location where their customer base can get access to the information that they need. Once Leo and Brian identified and positioned Report, Leo led a very strong evaluation effort to demonstrate why Report was the right solution to meet their needs. They covered topics from administration to design, data sources, to the report designer itself. Once they came on board and we completed training, the focus turned to the recreation of these 12 baseline reports that they have. And as those were completed, the focus shifted to an all hands on deck approach to recreating over 100 customer reports. Not a easy task. So the development of these reports with Logi Report Designer was fairly straightforward. You know, they stumbled a little bit, but the Logi support team was on top of things. In talking to these guys, they mentioned not only Leo, but Cindy and Jing as well, who have done a great job across many of our report customers. So one of the things they ran into was, as they're creating these reports or recreating these reports, you have to make them match your parent application, right? So there's a lot of styling and look and feel and flow that needs to be done. So the development efforts to do the integration of the Logi reports into the application was really key for them. They were able to use Java to kind of recreate and integrate the look and feel of the application into the report, the parent user interface. They also had a bit of a need for some advanced security, and they used the Logi API for that. And again, this was a strong effort from our Logi report support team. And many of you know who they are because you work with them every day on report. So thank you to all of those involved. So now a quick look. We don't have really good screen captures. Again, this would be great, a great use of a demo, a video demo. I think we'll maybe consider those for next year to see if we can get some workflow. This also shows why report was probably the right choice. These are very actuarial, finance, bean counter type reports. They're looking to get good, clean looks at data, and then to be able to use that data in other areas, sometimes through things like exporting CSV, or even capturing clean tables for presentations and things of that nature. I can assure you though, no pun intended, actually it was, their customers are very happy with their new reporting capabilities, as is the Assure team. Here's another simple example of a crosstab report, and we have one more here. I believe this is a shipment status report. So those are some of the things we're able to capture, just to give you a quick look. What do they think about report? They were able to integrate into their application with reports that look like they belong and not some standalone third-party product. Their ask is not difficult. It just takes the right tool to do it in time. They're thrilled to finally be in production with all customers having access to their new reporting platform. The dev team thought the training was very thorough and informative. And again, with the help of the Logi support team, especially Leo, all obstacles encountered were quickly overcome. And as I mentioned, really, really solid team. Quite a few twists and turns in this story, but Assure not only has finally found the best solution with Logi Report, they're also going to pursue utilization of Logi Composer in 2022. So with the positioning of Report and Composer together, they've got some places to go to help expand this offering and make it a little bit maybe more visually appealing and interactive. And they also can continue to use ad hoc with their new license on their new hardware. So win-win-win all around. So now on to metadata solutions, M-Analytics application. So who is metadata first? Metadata's journey started in 1999 when a scientist working on his first clinical trial was mired in inefficiencies and delays. He had a firm belief that technology could improve the process and set out to make it so. Over time, metadata has grown to be the leader in clinical technology, with thousands of people working towards the same goal of using the latest tech to help bring life-saving treatments to the world. These guys are very similar to ERT, for those of you who are familiar with ERT. Now, that scientist who ended up becoming a digital health visionary and trailblazer was named Glenn DeVries. He transformed clinical trials forever. And let me go into a little bit more about Glenn. He was a bench scientist working on prostate cancer at Columbia in the mid-90s. When with colleagues and friends, he had the idea of making electronic research infrastructure the foundation for a whole new generation of clinical trials. To that end, in 1999, he and Tariq Sheriff, also pictured here, co-founded Medidata and built it to become the world's most used clinical research platform. Now, I wanted to take a moment to mention Glenn and really to honor him, because he unfortunately passed away in a horrible accident this past November while still helping lead Medidata. So he led quite a remarkable and impactful life, and his work and vision are continuing with Medidata. Two things I want to leave you with in regards to Glenn. He authored a book, which I highly recommend, called The Patient Equation. I've started to read it, not gotten very far yet. I hope to, as soon as I wrap up this presentation, pick it back up. It goes into in-depth about the digitalization of health and medicine today and its impact on the future. It is, I think, very important reading for those of us in analytics. It applies, so much of it is interesting because of the times we're in. But we can learn a lot by the journey that these folks have taken, and understanding the mind behind what led to that, I think will be useful to us all. I also want to mention finally that he fulfilled a lifelong dream prior to his passing of going into space. On October 13th of 2021, he was able to join the Blue Origin NS-18, I believe it was their second flight, accompanying William Shatner, and got to go into space. So very pleased that he was able to do that. So let's move back to Medidata. As I mentioned, their journey started in 1999 and now have over 2,000 employees. They're based out of New York, owned by Dassault Systems, a France-based Fortune 50 company. So again, they're leading the digital transformation of life sciences. Everything they do is helping create hope for millions of patients. Their main product that we are working with or have begun working with, which is one of many they have, is called Rave, and it's a product created specifically for clinical trials. They're starting with this one product and hope to broaden the initiative to all their products in the portfolio. What's the backstory here? Over time, they've grown to be a leader in clinical technology with thousands of people working towards that same goal. So they operate in the clinical trial data management realm. It's a platform that captures clinical trial data. They currently have so much clinical trial data and so many different use cases for which it uses a lot of different, third-party tools to access and deliver analytics and reporting to those end users. So this is really slowing down and hindering access and impacting users' experiences. So what Medidata wants to do is implement Composer, rolled out in multiple phases, initially setting up as a separate application for analytics, and eventually embedding and serving it in its platform as the primary focus of the user experience. The overall goal is to centralize reporting analytics needs and deprecate the many different third-party tools that are currently in use for reporting. It'll take some time. As I mentioned, they're not yet embedded. They're early in the journey. So let's talk a little bit about when Medidata came aboard and how we got to where we are. So they came aboard in July of 2021. It was a very, very ambitious team. They had a very, very short timeline and very aggressive. I can't use very too much. These guys wanted to go out and do it all now. A lot of complexity in scope and in the number of users and objects, in multi-tenancy and data load and security, just a lot of complexity. So we put an onboarding team. We recognized this early because coming into this deal or before this deal closed, a lot of the post-sales team was involved. We knew it was going to be a challenge. So we put a very dedicated onboarding team with Jimmy Baya, brought in people like Delant Patel, Steve Murfitt, and myself. We all stayed very close throughout the onboarding. We also involved VJ and the engineering team early on to engage with metadata. And really, we spent a lot of time building trust with understanding their processes, letting them know how they could use Composer. What we wanted to do was be able to build that trust so that we could start to help them realize that a replanning effort to address the scope and the scale really needed to be given thought to. And we were able to do that. It was nice to be able to plug in people like VJ early. It helps take information back to the product team so that they understand what's going on, especially in regards to some of these very complex deployments with large user and data demands. Anyways, we made sure we were very engaged with these guys from the beginning, regular discussions. We have meetings 5 times a week with trainings and working sessions, a lot of back and forth, a lot of collaboration online, using some of the online tools. We used their Confluence. We had our own Confluence page. We collaborated over Box. The Logi team worked very diligently to capture everything we could, provide as much information as possible. And even went as far as putting together, Jimmy Baya did a great job with the team's help, putting together advanced specifications around permissions and help guide them how to do those in their early implementations. And also take that information back to the product team so that we could make sure that the product understood this implementation and how people are looking to use the tool. Excuse me. So let's take a quick look at what some of the things are that metadata is using. Again, not Composer here. This is the metadata or iMetadata homepage. It's the parent application that kind of provides access to the visual analytics that are embedded in this application or will be embedded. So they do have other modules that are embedded. What you see here is a number of studies that the end users would have access to. And then for each of these studies, there's multiple applications. We won't go into the complexity of those or follow that workflow now. Let's go straight over to see what it might look like in Composer. So for those of you acquainted with Composer, this should look very familiar. A simple landing page. We go to one of the dashboards they built. So here's one of the initial ones they've created. It contains a plethora of data and KPIs related to clinical studies. I currently view metadata, its Composer journey, as being very close to the starting line. If you recall in Vista, they spent years developing an all-encompassing application that guides the end user and provides all sorts of supporting functionality, including their day one dashboard library. And all that's kind of wrapped around training and guidance to get the user adoption up and make users able to be more efficient, more effective earlier. So metadata appears to be going down a similar path, at least from the start. Obviously, different data sets, there'll be different workflows, but I think plugging metadata into what Envista's done is something that may be useful. So we've discussed getting the two teams together to let metadata see what is possible via the Envista solution, let them start to collaborate, exchange ideas. We've had success with this in other relationships between customers in different industries, and it's even better. I don't think we want metadata to talk to ERT. I think they might compete, but who knows, at some point, maybe they can collaborate. I promise, Robin, I won't chase that down before we discuss it. But in all seriousness, the technology of implementing the analytics and the workflows and the things you think about and the lessons learned are very valuable as we partner with our customers and try to encourage them to partner with others as well. So here's a look at the capabilities, select various data sources within that dashboard. So they're exploring that, changing the group for the chart, adding a metric for the chart, zooming specific attributes by key set. These are just some things we captured during a recent demo that I thought were interesting. So what is metadata saying about Composer? So the ability to get something up and available for internal use and early adoption actually impressed them. We had to hold them back, but at the end of the day, I think they liked what they were able to do. And a lot of that was due to the effort of the team involved supporting them from the Logi end. They're very appreciative of our partnership and working to understand their workflow needs. So we're not just out there selling them on what our tool does, but we're understanding how they want to use it so that we can ensure that they're leveraging the capabilities and also plugging our engineering team in to help move things forward, not only on their side, but on our side, which is ultimately what's going to need to happen for some of the capabilities they're looking for and others are looking for long term. And they see the important features that their end users will leverage, being initially time bar, zooming, filtering, and native export capabilities as pretty critical. There are others on there as well, but these are the ones that were talked about recently. I believe the slide will be a living slide in that we could update this once a month with what are the next important features and the next things that they're going to want to dive into. So we'll continue to do that as we partner with them going forward. And then as discussed, metadata came up with a very targeted and reasonable scope for the initial implementation to allow 1, quick MVP, and 2, immediate feedback from early adopters. So as they plan for the future, they have some ideas around what the next challenges will be. They have expectations of thousands of users across a multi-tenant architecture. That'll be a challenge for both a configuration as well as a load standpoint. They already are planning for study managers to need the capability to perform cross-domain analysis. We'll have to help them do some redesign and work with our engineering team to help with that implementation. And then custom metrics, which we're starting to see as a common request for customers to be able to create these custom metrics. Now in a multi-domain environment, challenges come into play about how to separate and segregate those to certain user groups, especially when you've got data that might be used by different groups doing different studies that aren't working together necessarily. And then the ability to provide actionability within the dashboard via deep linking and auto navigation. So they're thinking ahead on how this should be used. A lot of great stuff coming out of this relationship. So let me circle back to the vision that led to metadata. Okay. I've got a quote here from the patient equation. Let me read it first. Imagine a world where the data was harvested, analyzed, and combined with all of the medical records that are collected over the course of our lives and assembled into something to extend longevity, enhance quality of life, and even help alter the arc of a pandemic. So this quote from the patient equation really resonates with me and moves me. And not just in admiration of the efforts of people like Dr. DeVries and all those in metadata and all those that they're serving that are doing all the research and trying to advance science and life with these studies. But really, everyone that supports them, which includes all of us, in what we do every day to provide them with a platform that they can use to help all those that are trying to meet their goals. So we do more than we think about probably on a daily basis. And I think it's important that, especially at a time like this, at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year, we kind of reflect on what we're doing. But I think it's also nice to do it during the year. So I hope this will be the kind of thing that people maybe pay more attention to as you're interacting with customers or talking to your colleagues about different engagements, different clients. So that concludes today's look at and stories around some of our best applications of 2021. As you've heard over the last 30, I guess it's about 50 minutes, sorry. There are many people who help to create these and the other stories that define what we do here every day. It's every one of us, of you. In concert with our partners, we design and craft what turns into the words, sentences, and chapters that describe the successes that these applications provide. So to wrap this up, I'd like to once again paraphrase the great storyteller in his own right, Tom Rinaldi of ESPN fame. There are many ways we measure time. One of the oldest ways, and maybe one of the best, is with stories. We measure our lives by them and often find meaning. And some final food for thought. What we do matters so much more than we often consider. So as we hit the ground running in 2022, remember that our mantra of here to win carries over to our partners and their goals as well. Not to mention all of those that their applications ultimately serve. So thank you all for your time, and I look forward to working with many of you this year on the stories that we're able to live together. Thank you.